All right, let's take a walk. Before we get into this about the managing director of communications for the church, would like to ask you to go to cwicmedia.com, that's cwicmedia.com, and subscribe to Cwic Week, our free newsletter. Comes out now twice a week. Again, cwicmedia.com. All right. Well, controversial episode that I put up recently. At least some people would say it's controversial. A lot of, I don't know, about 1,500 comments on it. And boy, they come from all angles on this. From the left, from the right, all over the place. I want to add a few things on this and make some things very clear. Number one, there was a lot more that I have researched that I did not put in there. And I have reasons for doing that. I'm careful about certain things. People say, well, why would you put this out there? All you have are tweets from posts from, 7 or 8 years ago and pronouns on his LinkedIn profile, but that isn't all, right? That's not the case. There's a lot from the United Nations. And again, all I'm putting out there are my ideas and things that I disagree with. These are my opinions. But there's more out there, right? There's a lot on the United Nations. He believes in certain goals of the United Nations that I think are concerning and destructive. There's more posts that I did not go to. He's got his own website, supporting a number of people with that are focused on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's just something I don't agree with. I have a very different worldview from him. I've talked to people that have known him. I've talked to people that know him. So those that are on there saying this is just a few posts from a long time ago, no, it's not just that. It's not just that. Now, to be real clear, this is more about his ideas than it is him. And I want to say that, look, this guy is probably a great guy. And I said that in the episode. I said that on my appearance on Word Radio in that episode. You can separate his ideas from his value and from him being a child of God. I've done this as much as I can with others. Patrick Mason is a good example. I disagree with a lot of what Patrick Mason says, right? But I've had him on the show. I've had online conversations with him. I know he's a faithful guy. I just don't agree with his worldview, right? I don't agree with his ideas. That doesn't change the fact that he's a child of God and that he loves the church. And I believe firmly from what I've seen so far, regardless of the ideas that I strongly disagree with the new communications director, I believe he's a faithful member of the church, and I believe that he loves the church. He just has a different view of maybe where things are going or should go, or what kind of changes should be made. But I'd love to sit down and have lunch with him. You'll notice that I don't ever say anything like he should be fired. I don't say that. Even when I talk about BYU, I don't talk about the professors and say they need to be fired. I've never said that. I'm not an activist when it comes to the church, but I do believe in awareness, and I do believe in education and not putting your head in the sand and not, sinking into the spiral of silence. I don't believe that that's the right answer to all of these things. I happen to have a very different view than what he has. And to me, it's important. Why? Because I've studied these ideologies for 11 years. And I see where they're going. I've been able to see that for a long time. When you study something like this and you see the patterns, it's pretty obvious what starts to happen. So that's what concern I have, right? Those are the concerns that I have with the ideas that he has espoused. Another thing is, this has nothing to do with, conservative versus liberal politics. That has nothing to do with that. I don't care what his politics in that sense are. I don't believe that should be a litmus test for someone being hired or involved with the church. He's obviously committed to the church. He obviously loves the church. That's not the issue, right? Again, to me, it's a matter of some of these ideas just starting to creep in, like they do in every other institution. This is more about an ideology, where these things come from, and a very different worldview than what I believe the gospel represents. One thing to note is it appears, as I went through now a couple days later, that his posts have come down. Many of those posts that were brought up have been taken down. I have a question about that. You know, I think maybe it's smart, but why would they come down? Why would they come down? Because if those are the things that he believes, and he seems to continue to believe that, you know, based on what I've seen on his website, what I've seen from the UN tapes and other things and others, you know, I wonder, you know, why take that down? But he has. Again, it's probably smart. But those posts were there. Some of you are questioning that. I have snapshots of it myself, screenshots of it myself, with not only the dates on the social media, but the dates on my computer. I want to add something else in here as well. When some people comment, or maybe they've come to my channel or my podcast for the first time, and they hear this kind of a controversial or hot topic, right? And they wonder about me, and they wonder about the topic. You know, I think it's important to have some context with these things. I've got over 800 episodes on YouTube. It's very easy to see who I am. It's very easy to see who I support. It's very easy to see if I'm faithful or not faithful from all of those episodes. That doesn't mean I'm perfect. That doesn't mean I make all the right decisions, but please have some context about these things, or try and gain some context about some of these episodes. And I'm coming from a place where not only have I studied these things for a long time, but I have dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of emails and letters from parents and students and others who have dealt with these ideologies that are coming into their homes, right? They can't get away from it. It's on them. It's on their social media, the kids' social media. It's on, it might be even a spouse that grabs onto it. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, they've fallen away from the church. They see things in a critical theory lens, and it's victim and oppressor, and the church is the oppressor. Or it's the LGBTQ issues, and the church, you know, must not like LGBTQ. And, you know, these are falsehoods. They're absolute falsehoods. And there's a specific doctrine about exaltation. And we all have to adhere to that doctrine of exaltation. But it's heartbreaking. It is heart-wrenching to read these things, especially the parents or the spouses who have lost a spouse, who have lost their kids, who have fallen away from the church because they start adopting these ideologies. These are very pernicious ideologies. And they naturally put you in a position where you are fighting against all authority, or many authorities, and especially if it is something that seems to restrict you through commandments, even though we know that that's not true. It's a choice that we make. And I'm telling you, when you have read this over and over and over again, and I've done some episodes with some of these parents, there is a real pandemic, a spiritual pandemic that is happening. And like COVID, which is a physical pandemic, this is a real spiritual pandemic. And many parents don't know what to do about it. They're at a loss because it comes on to us so fast. And before we know it, we've lost a child, we've lost a spouse, etc., to these ideologies. So yeah, I've got a little bit of a sensitivity to this. And I think rightfully so. These are anti-Christ, anti-gospel ideologies. Now also, for those that have commented on the video on YouTube, and they decide that because of a hire like this, that they think the church has gone into apostasy, or the brethren are in apostasy. And they start quoting, you know, Isaiah 28 and Moroni 8 and other things. Look, you got to be really careful about this and how you apply those scriptures. You have got to sustain the brethren. Nothing that I said and ever have said in over 800 episodes has ever been to criticize the brethren, ever. I don't think you'll find any channel or podcast that has put up more supportive and sustaining content than I have. So for those of you who don't have context and have maybe stated that somehow or jumped to a conclusion about supporting the brethren, please don't jump to that conclusion. You need a little bit more context here. We're talking about an employee. We're talking about an employee of a church. But the church is not in apostasy. Are these ideologies going to seep in more? Yeah, probably. But you've got to sustain the brethren, and I'll tell you why. When you wound the head, when you attack the head, when you cut off the head, the entire body dies. You can't do that. If you love the church, if you love the scriptures, if you love the history, Joseph Smith and Brigham Young and the coming forth of the Restoration and the temple work and all of these beautiful, incredible doctrines and practices that are put into place, then you don't want to put yourself in a position where it's like, yeah, well, this is it. No. You want to help the church as much as you can. Sometimes, I believe, that comes through awareness. You've got to be aware of what's going on. But please sustain the brethren. The church is true. The gospel is true. And we ought to be immersed in a sense of gratitude for what we have, something that most of humanity has never had. And we get to enjoy these truths. We've got stormy waters that are coming. And we should be prepared for that. We should not be putting our heads in the sand. But the whole purpose of having awareness is not to run and hide, not to cut and leave. The purpose of having awareness is to build resilience, to put yourself into the scriptures that much more, to strengthen your relationship with God that much more, and to be one that is a great and noble one, that overcomes the adversity that you were sent here in this time to begin with, so that you could be someone that can be a tool in the hand of the Lord. I'll talk to you next time.